So at CES, we got to see the Lenovo Legion Y740s. Now Lenovo's calling this a gaming laptop, but it does not feature an NVIDIA or AMD dedicated GPU. Instead, what they're hoping you do in order to utilize gaming on that particular laptop is buy their external GPU boost station enclosure, which is an additional $250. Plug that in via Thunderbolt 3, and then you're off to the races. Unfortunately, it's just easier said than done. You're also going to want an external monitor, and along with that, an external keyboard, make your laptop a docking station, and that's just to get decent performance out of these high-end graphics cards. The bottleneck is still Thunderbolt 3, and I don't think that is a good solution. What I would have liked to have seen for this particular laptop is there's actually three things. One, it's too expensive. It's $1,100 without a discrete graphics card. And already right there, most of you coming to this channel are like, I'm bouncing, I'm done, there's no way. Do I think, personally, does Bob think it's gonna be $1,100 post-release when this thing comes out in May? No, I would say by late summer it'll be $899. Lenovo does pretty awesome sales, so don't expect this at $1099. Other than maybe the first, 6-8 weeks of release. So that could be a good thing, right? But it's a little too expensive. The Boost Station eGPU enclosure is another $250, and then you need the graphics card on top of that. And if you want to get some decent performance, you want to use an external monitor and then a keyboard. Next thing you know, you're into this for over $2,000 versus buying, heck, you can get an Alienware 51M for a little over $2,000 and buy a mouse, and that thing will smash anything that this Y740s could ever dream of doing. I get it. It's two different markets, right? People are not going to want to carry this thing around like the Y740s, but one of the three biggest problems with that laptop is it's already starting off to look like a very poor value, and people that demand that long time battery life can just get themselves a laptop dedicated to doing that and then a laptop dedicated to gaming and already save themselves money and get better performance and have a purpose for each one and still save themselves plenty of space. Now, what else is wrong with that laptop? Well, it's using Thunderbolt 3 to communicate with the external GPU and the laptop, and that's just not fast enough. We need Thunderbolt 4 or the Alienware Dell graphics amplifier. That does a really good job of communicating with the external GPU and those Alienware laptops better than Thunderbolt 3. In some instances, they're close. In others, the Alienware graphics amplifier does outperform it. But not only that, you can actually pipe the video game image into the laptop display, making the whole entire solution less bulky, less cumbersome, a little neater. Now I don't need an external monitor, and there's nothing wrong with that if those that want that kind of solution, well, guess what? It is there for you. But I do find that the proprietary connection that's on these laptops will do a better job with the communication of the actual laptop CPU and that external GPU enclosure. Not only that, it's a little less troublesome because it's Dell's proprietary setup and they've got it figured out pretty good, okay? And I'm not trying to shill out Dell or anything right now, but if you've ever had any time with an external GPU enclosure, you'll know that it's not exactly plug and play. It can be a little difficult sometimes. Sometimes it's working great, other times it's hardly working at all, and there's just a lot of trial and error. And you're trying to learn how to do things and get these drivers on here, and oh, this doesn't work, now I need to reset the system, oh crud, that didn't work. It's not plug and play most of the time. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is a 60 watt-hour battery in that laptop. That surprised me, okay? I think it's great that it has an SD card reader, as it should. I think it's pretty cool that it has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. That's kind of neat for a Windows-based machine, but a 60 watt-hour battery? You should have gone right to a 100 watt-hour battery, right up to that legal limit. And here's why. Without that, there's really nothing about this system that ultimately stands out. Anybody that wants this kind of solution can get it through various other vendors. Gigabyte does it, Razer does it. This can be done across many different platforms. Even Dell, you can get an XPS 15 with their Thunderbolt 3, buy a cute GPU enclosure, and have the same kind of setups. You're not really offering anything that stands out, and all these other manufacturers offer bigger batteries inside of their laptops. I think it's cool that you don't have a true dedicated GPU, and that will improve battery life. but if you put a 100 watt-hour battery in there, that right there, just that alone would get people's attention, and they would want to figure out, why does this have a 100 watt-hour battery? This looks neat. At least they would be intrigued to open up the door and come inside and see what you have to offer. That is a no-brainer. Otherwise, I felt like you just sort of played it safe here a little bit and didn't really offer anything too compelling. I think the concept is sound, but I don't think it's going to take off because of a few missing links here, and one of those you could have controlled is the larger battery life. Now, with that said, it's my understanding that there is a quad fan cooling solution with a vapor chamber inside this laptop, which means that the CPU could be getting a really good thermal performance. But what about actual performance? How much wattage is that CPU allowed to get? I asked so many people at CES, because I didn't get to go, what was the power supply unit wattage on that laptop, and nobody bothered to look. It would have been nice to know. So the typical USB-C power supply size, I think on Windows-based laptops, correct me if I'm wrong, as I'm sure you will, is about 60 watts. And if Lenovo is utilizing that, well then you can clearly see the limitation of the CPU already. And I think it would have been really cool, no pun intended here, to have a large battery and maybe like a 90 watt USB-C charger. That way we could get these CPUs to get a little bit better than 45 watts. I mean, just the closer you can get to 80 watts on that, the better. And if you offer an i9, which it's my understanding you do, the 9980H, well, that thing at full bore is gonna pull well over 100 watts anyway. And if you could have utilized that wattage, utilized that amount of performance, because let's face it, if you're gonna utilize that whole entire chassis to get the thermal performance out of a CPU pulling that much wattage, I think it's possible. You've also got 4 fans in there. I'm thinking it's possible. But if you're running a measly 60 watt-hour USB charger, then you're going to obviously limit the wattage that the CPU is able to pull, and therefore, sort of neuter performance a little bit. And on an external GPU enclosure type setup, CPU performance is very, very important, so it can't be fast enough. And all in all, I'm so fascinated with this product, but I'm also incredibly let down, and I don't expect it to go anywhere. But out of all the laptops that I saw at CES and this whole entire setup, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to review this badly. I actually do. For as much as I just blasted this whole entire setup, I think the concept is unique, and I sure as heck wouldn't have passionately talked about it over the fall of 2019 if I didn't feel this way. I just feel like if you really wanted this thing to work, Lenovo, you would have done a few things that had a little bit more meaning to them than what we've got here. All right, folks, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.